Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is in your time zone. And when you happen to be listening to this podcast, welcome back or welcome for the first time to The Art of a Well-Lived Life by me, Katie Hauser, your hostess. Today, I am so excited to be bringing you the ghost writer that helped Dr. Gladys McGarey bring forth her very last book before she passed. And this woman goes by the name of Chandika. And I'm just going to read her little bio here. Chandika is particularly interested in promoting cutting-edge ideas around health, consciousness, psychology, sexuality, feminism, social justice, trauma, and death. A dedicated world traveler and lifelong interspiritual student. Her background includes yoga, entheogens, and esoteric mysticism. She most often writes from a European time zone. I could not be more excited. Dr. Gladys and I spoke of Chandika many, many times in our Instagram lives, and the conversations that Dr. Gladys and Chandika had really to clarify and bring this book forward were just so profound, as is evident by the book that came out. So, without further ado, I welcome you to the podcast this morning. Well, here we are, Chandika. I am so happy to finally meet you and have you on the podcast. It's just what a pleasure. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And so, for all of the people out here that are listening, I have already done a little bit of an intro, but really what you were was the lead collaborator
hmm
on the book that Gladys published and put out 2 years before she passed away.
Yeah, I was the lead collaborative writer. So I did a lot of interviewing with Gladys and a lot of talking about her stories and going over them again and again and figuring out how to fit them into the structure of the book and put them into these six secrets.
Okay, so I just have so many questions about that. And before we begin, I just want to reiterate for anybody who's new to the podcast that Dr. Gladys McGarey was 101 when she started writing the book, I believe. And she passed away last year at almost 104. And she's considered the mother of holistic medicine. And there are so many accolades behind her and how she pioneered medicine for women and then also in the holistic medical field was just astounding. And so I had the pleasure of being with her for 3.5 years doing Instagram lives. And Chandika, how long were you two working on the book for? 2 years?
I think about 2 years between
Yeah.
the book proposal and the book itself. Yeah, about 2 years time from when she was 101 till when she was almost up to her 103rd birthday.
Yeah, it's so wild. So how did they find you?
Um, I had connections to her people and they had connections to me. And it was funny. When I was getting ready to do that project, I wasn't sure if it was going to go through or not. And I was interested. I was super interested in her. And my father was an MD. My mother is a retired midwife.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, my dad was a pediatrician, so that's the specialty he was in. So it was interesting. So I brought that to the table, and then I remember there was some conversation early on where we had the conversation anyway, but they were like, we've really found someone else, and maybe this will go toward a different book or something like this. This is before I met Dr. Gladys.
Okay.
And I was like, that's fine. She just seems like a really fascinating person. Would love to meet her, but if it doesn't work out, like I trust that things that are meant to
Yeah.
be are. And then she was the person who was questioning me about this, like, do you have any other questions? And I was like, is she sassy? And she was like, what? And I was like, is she sassy? Because I intend to be a sassy old lady, so I really need exposure to these people. And and I think that that was what ended up landing the deal.
That is so great. I
Yeah.
love that. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, how was the process for you? Did you meet with her once a week?
Gosh, I don't remember. I think we probably met about twice a week.
Okay.
Our like my attention span and ability to focus kind of taps out around an hour and a half for most meetings. So that's the amount of time I meet most people. And hers was around the same. So probably we met twice a week for a while, and then once a
Okay.
week at other points in time, and then twice a week for about that amount of time. And then at one point, I actually flew out to Scottsdale and hung out with her for a few days, and we did
Oh,
some
that's
dives.
so
Yeah.
great that you got to actually be with her.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. I brought my mom along because I wanted her to
Oh,
meet Dr. Gladys and Dr. Gladys to meet her.
that is so great.
Yeah.
Well, so, had you been I mean, you write books, you write all kinds of books. Um, but
Hmm.
had you ever, what was your experience of this? I mean, 101-year-old woman who was quite sassy and
Uh-huh.
had some really interesting ideas and views that she wanted to get out into the world. And
Yeah.
so what was your experience? What did you glean from that? I'm sure there was a lot of personal growth on your end just hearing the words she was saying.
For sure. I mean, all my books move through me. That's how whether I'm serving in capacity as an editor, whether I'm actually the one producing the drafts, as I was with this project, it doesn't matter. They all move through me, and by that I mean that I have to live them to understand them.
Okay.
And and that's the beautiful part, you know?
Oh,
So
yeah.
they touch my life in some way. Often something comes up in my own personal world. I usually don't even share what it is with the author because there is a professional boundary there, but something that I'm working on is moving through me with the wisdom coming through the book. So I have this opportunity to test it out and come up with the right questions to ask to help it go
Wow.
deeper because I'm a test subject. Um,
How
yeah,
beautiful. That brought tears to my eyes. That's really
yeah.
so moving.
Yeah, it's a gift. It's a cool career in that way
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
really believe that it's aligned with my own spiritual path, my professional work. That's why I say when it works out, it works out. When it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not in my hands. It's about bringing the right people together so that both of us can go further in our own
Right.
dharma and where we're going in the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
so amazing. So any of that you would like to share about how the Six Secrets spoke to you? Was there anything more impactful than, I mean, you had said that you had a lot you could share about the unfolding. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because there were a lot of hands in this project. And so as
okay.
a result, and it went through a lot of iterations. So I would need to like get the book down from the shelf and see how it turned out because I have so many memories from it that may or may not resonate with readers of the book. Maybe even there's stories we took out or didn't, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
but
what I wanted the book to do is serve as a wake-up call in terms of our orientation. You know, Dr. Gladys is really she's a inherently positive person.
mm,
She doesn't speak in negatives. Even what I just said, she doesn't speak in negatives. I don't think she would even say that. I don't think she would even define something by what it wasn't.
I agree. And I can't tell you how many times she would catch herself and correct herself. When we were doing an Instagram live, she would say
Yes.
something and she would say, "No, that's not right." And she would reword it in a positive light.
Yeah.
It was
And so
amazing.
it's
Amazing.
amazing. And it's rare. And I
Yeah.
had to do
Yeah.
that, because I would write down what I thought she said, or I would look at transcripts and I would think, okay, I'm just typing what it says here in different words. But I would inherently, at times, without even thinking about it, I would switch it to the negative, and she would catch me. And she would say, I mean, I remember one time I said, like, I'm dying to do this or something like that. And she was
Yeah.
like, no,
You're
you're
not going to
living to
say
do
that.
this, and she would switch things. So there was this was a huge piece of what I wanted to capture in the book. There was this pivotal story. And at one point, I don't think this is what made it into the final book, but at one point we had it at the beginning of the book and then we returned to it again at the end. So it kind of bookended the storytelling in the book. And it was this
Okay.
story of her son David in the womb at about 36 weeks or even later, maybe. And she realized he was breech. And she had to flip him with her hands. And she did
Wow.
it. Is this in the book? Do you remember? Is this ringing a bell?
No, and I don't ever recall her telling me this story.
Yeah. She had to flip him with her hands, which is a technique that midwives and even now like OBGYNs, I think will do it if they're trained to do it.
Right.
And it can be quite uncomfortable for the woman
Yeah.
and for the baby, but she explained how she did it. Not only did she do it to herself, she did it while sitting next to Bill, who had no idea what was going on, and listening to a lecture. One she
Oh, I do. She was like in a lecture hall.
yeah.
Yeah, I do remember this story. Yes.
And it was crazy. And so she just like reached down and it was this push-pull because on the one hand she was using her hands to guide and apply pressure. She wanted to make it uncomfortable enough for
So that
this
the
kid,
baby would turn.
baby, that they
Yeah.
would turn, and it had to become uncomfortable enough. But at the same time, she had to talk to him and explain to him why it was important that he turn. It's not wrong the way you are, but it's going to be a lot easier to go through what you're going to go through, which you're going to go through. You can't
Yeah.
stop it. It's going to
Right.
happen. It's going to be
Right.
a lot easier if you flip. And this idea for me that the world puts pressure on us in order to encourage us, and that if we listen, it's explaining to us why, and it's loving us the entire time, it, in this very maternal
Wow.
way. It really struck me, and I thought there was so much opportunity for metaphor there. And at one point I wanted to frame the whole book around it, like turning ourselves from one orientation to the other, not because it's wrong the way we were, but because it's
Right.
just going to bring ease and
Right.
joy and bliss.
And be smoother and all of the things. Wow. That's
Yeah.
really what a beautiful interpretation. And yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah. So it's something I brought into my life and I was bringing it into my life at the time. How am I turned away? How am I just in an uncomfortable position or how could I lean into what's uncomfortable so that I could find a way to be that would make this set of pressures that I can't control more comfortable, or this set of experiences, and really looking at that throughout my life. It was pivotal for me, and I really struggled as a writer how to get that onto the page because it's such a heady concept,
Yeah.
and I've thought about it for these years since and hoped I got it there enough and did it enough justice because it was a lot to put into words.
Do you have an example in your life where that you're willing to share that you were able to apply this thinking?
Sure. I mean, I'll start by saying that throughout my life, it's only when I've turned to the hard stuff and been willing to be with it instead of just fighting it, resisting it, that it starts to shift. And that doesn't
Mhm.
mean welcoming everything that's terrible in
Right,
a way that is, I mean, it doesn't, it's not a Pollyanna thing. It's about accepting that this is what is. And so
right.
in that moment, I was experiencing infertility actually, and it was hard and it was scary. And we didn't know how much we should get medical involvement and how much we should deal with on our own and um how much mindset could have something to do with it and how much like maybe in the end what I needed was antibiotics, which I don't think anyone else who needs antibiotics for anything would be told that's just a mindset issue. You know,
Right.
you don't mindset your way out of gangrene. So
Nope.
you know, so I did need medical intervention, but low grade medical intervention, but I was resisting it so much
Mm,
and um and I really needed that to move through me. And I was resisting all the things that it brought up for me about who I am as a person and what my life's meant to be and all of that. I was struggling in those months and even over a year. And this was what I needed to do was turn toward it. And of course, it was the moment that I turned toward it that it released. Also because I got antibiotics, let's be clear. But that was
yeah,
the
but when you think about, just when you spoke about Gladys using her hands to physically create some pressure to make
hmm
it uncomfortable for the baby, and then
hmm
using the other hand to say, like, it's this way, go this way, like
Yeah.
guiding, right? And so if you're looking at it from that metaphorical perspective, and you were willing to sit in what is, and this is what is, and I'm not going to resist the medical intervention. I mean, you
hmm
could look at the antibiotics as that hand guiding.
Right.
Like
Oh yeah.
this is an easier way. Like it might not be the perfect way. Well, it is the perfect way. It might not
Right.
be what you wanted it to be or what you thought it was going to be, but here's
Right.
the way. And
Right. Right. And I'm fine with taking antibiotics. It was more the amount of testing and things that needed to be done in order to discover the problem that
right,
was yeah, but it yeah, and it was hard to navigate. You know, Dr. Gladys herself, she went through cancer twice,
right,
and the first time she didn't use Western medicine, and the second time she did. And that was very much an intuitive decision, you know, based on um, her knowing what was right for her in the moment and being able to
right.
tap into that. And that's really hard to do in a moment of crisis like that. So I was also bringing that sort of knowing, trying to tap into that knowing into my own process in that moment.
Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful. And so was that happening while you were writing this and speaking with her
At
about it?
some points, yeah, at some points it was. I don't remember the exact timeline, but of when all that started. But my crisis around it happened while I was writing the book. Yeah.
And were you able to share that with her? I know you said you don't always like, want to share your personal journey with what's moving through you with the book, but was your relationship with her enough that you chose to do that or no?
I did after the book was completed.
Mm,
And because I think I was still in it at that time, but it was starting to shift. And I did share with her at that point in time what was going on. And then let's see, my son was born. She had already she passed away a year ago or
She passed away a year ago, September.
Yeah, so my son was already born when she, yeah, he'd been on Earth for maybe 6 months when she passed away. Yeah.
And you're pregnant again.
And I'm pregnant again. Yeah.
That's so
Right around and
exciting.
got pregnant again. It was easier this time.
Good.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. So, and we could connect around that, we could certainly connect around knowing that we were kind of destined to be mothers. I also have a semi-adopted child. She's not legally adopted, but I've played a huge role in raising her, and she's in college now and continues to be a huge part of my life.
Wow,
And
beautiful.
that was something that Gladys and I could relate on as mothers, because
Mhm.
in many ways I already was a mother by the time we started working together. And
Right,
yeah, motherhood was a huge part of what we came here to do, and not everything we came here to do, which
right.
for Gladys was, I mean, she was in many ways a rarity, someone who had more than one external way in her life to work with purpose in a very tangible way. That was a rarity for women, certainly women of her, yeah, in her
Yeah.
in her echelon of society.
I mean, such a pioneer in that sense of just even
Pioneer.
the timing that she went to medical school and, just all of it and trying to work in that patriarchy of the white coat and the men
Yeah,
and, the whole thing and just being sort of shut down a lot.
yeah,
And having the tenacity. And so I think, and she talked about having the tenacity from growing up where she grew up, and just, I mean, what a legacy of a life to share. And where she grew up in India and watching her parents
right.
do what they did, and just treating all kinds of people, but her own struggle with in school with
Hmm.
can I think of what it's called?
Dyslexia?
Yeah, thank you, of dyslexia. And, there's something to be said when you can overcome that and work with it and work through it. I mean, that takes a lot. And so that sets you up for,
Yeah.
what you're gonna be faced ahead of, in future.
For sure. And in her case, she had these two amazing role models with her mother and then with her Aunt Belle, her father's sister,
Right.
who were just these both of them became osteopathic doctors, which at the time was pretty much the only path available, the highest path available to them as female practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think there were some female MDs, but not many
Right.
in and certainly their work in India allowed them to be really hands-on with that and just practice. And then I was going to say something else about what you just said, but it escaped me. Oh, her dyslexia. There we go.
Mm.
So my dad was a developmental pediatrician, and
Mm.
he really taught that children, people, all have gifts. He taught us as kids, and I've always been fascinated by the dyslexic mind. I that was part of what pulled me into the project. I've worked with
Mm.
several dyslexic authors over the years, and the thing about the dyslexic mind, we think of it as just this thing with the floating letters and all of that. And
Right.
there is that. That's one sort of manifestation of it. But it's a mind that thinks differently.
Right.
And it can be hard to pin it down. It can be hard to pin down what people are saying or why they're saying it sometimes because they tend to talk in a really circular way and because that's the way their mind is working. But at the same time, there's so much gift to be gleaned from the dyslexic mind. I find it really fascinating. I think a lot of what made Dr. Gladys so amazing is also what made her dyslexic. You know,
Right. Right.
it's that type of
And,
mind.
she talked about the fact that I think the original, I mean, there were four original founders of the American Holistic Medical Association, but then they had the
Hmm.
board. And I think at one meeting, maybe there were, 14 people at the meeting, and she said, almost half of them or half of them were dyslexic, and that, maybe that's what it was. It was that different way of thinking that allowed them, gave them that creative, expansive way to look at medicine and like, this isn't this, there needs to be more to this than just straight allopathic medicine. We need to expand on this. So, yeah, I mean, what a gift.
What a gift. I mean, it's a different way of looking at things. When you think about holistic and here I described it as, that the mind works in this kind of circular way. And the most obvious shape that comes to mind for me when I think of holistic is a circle. It's this sort of
Hmm.
round, expansive, ongoing lens on the world. And
Hmm.
it's amazing. It's amazing. But it was hard for her. I mean, it was getting through school was hard for
Oh,
her.
yeah.
The trauma, I don't know if she would call it trauma, probably not. The formative experiences of her, the way she was treated in school really
Hmm.
young, she
Hmm.
carried them with her for a very, very, very long time. Um, and they weren't echoed at home. She was always loved and valued,
Right.
and she is a blessed person to have always known she was loved and wanted by her parents and by her ayah and
Right.
all of that. But it it was it was really hard for her to find her voice because of that. And I think in a lot of ways it set her up for a lot of the more challenging things that happened later in her life with her marriage and things like that because she just her self-esteem had taken this hit in a really profound way, and
Mm.
it took her a long time to undo it, which all of us have some sort of experience like
Right.
that,
Right.
right? Some
Yeah.
not enough
I
in our
mean,
head.
the thing that, when she would talk about not finding her voice until she was 93,
Hmm.
and and I can relate to that. And I think so many women, particularly women, but I think men
Yeah.
too, but so many women can relate to exactly what she's talking about. And so that was one of the gifts for me in connecting with her was, okay, you are my inspiration. Like, I am not going to wait until I'm 93, And so
Mm,
part of this idea for me to do the podcast was like, this was a gift from her to me. Yeah, it's making me
yeah.
want to cry. Such a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, and I was listening to one of your other interviews, and so you were a neighbor in
Yeah.
Scottsdale?
Yeah, I mean, I was the youngest of all the kids. Of her six and my three, I was the youngest. So I didn't really get to hang out too much at their house, but my two older sisters did. And my oldest sister, Casey, was best friends with her daughter, Helene, like
Right.
in junior high. And so they spent a ton of time, and my two sisters went with them during the summer, at least one summer, maybe two, to the Edgar Casey like summer camp, a
Oh, wow.
Silmar that was in California. And so, they would tell me this story, and I got left behind. And they told me that, like all of them would be in the Volkswagen bus, like eight children in the back, and they would
Oh my
drive to
God.
California, and Gladys and Bill would be teaching and doing their part of it, and all the kids were, going to different classes or whatever. Um, so yeah, so my sister spent a little bit more time, a lot more time with them, but I always knew that was the McGarry's house, and we would, yeah, it was just so interesting. And I reconnected with her when I first read Born to Heal,
Hmm.
and I was so
Yeah.
inspired. And so I wrote her a letter, And I said, I don't know if you remember me. And, I explained, and I was just, I said, I've become a chiropractor and I work with my husband and at the time, and, had this whole thing. And she wrote me back this beautiful letter, which I'm so sad to say, I don't know what happened to that letter. I wish I still had
Mm.
it. But, so that was that. And then I was out in Scottsdale. My parents lived out there still. And so I'd gone out there for to visit, and we ended up having lunch with Gladys, and that would have been right around her 90th birthday. And then I let that go. That was great. And then I decided to reread the book. I think it was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
2020 when COVID started. I reread the book and I just connected with it in such a different way because in that 10 years, I myself had gotten divorced, similar
Mm.
experience with my ex-husband, infidelity, like the whole thing.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I just was really even more energized by her than I was the first time. So I reached out again and we had this lovely conversation. And then I asked her if she would do an interview with me for, International Women's Day. I was like, let's do a Zoom. Come on, let's just. And so I did. And then we just, then I ended up instigating a Instagram live with her and Zach Bush. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't know him, but I managed to make that work and connect them and introduce them because I really felt like he needed to know her. Not
Right.
not so much she needed to know him, but he was really all about bringing back the feminine in medicine at that time. And
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful conversation because he just let her speak for I think it's 90 minutes long. Um,
Wow.
and it's interesting because as I was starting to upload some of these podcasts to YouTube, I saw that interview because I couldn't find the interview anywhere. It's not on Zach Bush's Instagram lives, and that's where it was recorded. Um, but anyway, I found it on my YouTube channel, and I was like, oh, but YouTube had taken it down because they said it was inappropriate. And I was like, that's so weird.
Oh.
But I was thinking back, and at that time, I think Zach Bush was a little bit controversial in
Uh-huh.
the COVID thing. And so I think they probably took it down because of that. And so I asked them to do a review, and so it's back up. They brought it back up. So it's on my YouTube channel.
Good.
So I'm going to post it on Gladys's Instagram this week so people can rewatch it because it's just such a beautiful rendition of her talking about her upbringing.
Right. Well, and I love that he just gave her space to speak because that was such an important thing, you know. And you too, you did this huge service for her and for the world, you know, by giving her she'd found her voice, but you gave her a mic.
Yes,
You
yes.
know?
And so I really felt like that's what our Instagram lives were. It was really for me to create this platform for her
Right.
because, when I first said, after that first Instagram live with Zach Bush, she went from having 3 followers to 800
Yeah,
by
I
the
bet.
end of the thing. And so I was like, hey, Gladys, people liked what you had to say. They want to hear from you. And so I said, how about we start doing this every week and we'll just see whenever you want to stop, we'll stop. Because I really
Yeah.
had no idea what kind of energy she had. And it was just so
Right.
funny because, I mean, we went until it was our last Instagram live was probably a month before she passed.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it gave her a lot of juice.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always scheduling our meetings around that. She was like, I'm not missing my Instagram.
No, she loved it. And she loved it also because of the global reach.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that was the thing that was so fun is she always wanted to hear where everybody was coming from. It just
Right.
made her smile so huge.
Well, and imagine, I mean, in her lifetime, the ability to get information out. Like when she was
Yeah.
when she was born, she's probably shown it to you. I don't know if she ever showed it on Instagram, but when she was born, her it was so expensive and challenging to send a telegram back home that what did they send it? Girl well. I think that
Yeah.
that was what the telegram said.
Yeah.
Like, just like Beth has given birth to a girl and it's everyone's fine, which actually everyone wasn't fine. Beth wasn't fine. Um, uh,
Right. Her mother was very
Yes.
sick. Yeah.
Yes, her mother hemorrhaged. And that was very challenging. But anyway, they got the message back to the United States, to the family waiting for it. Girl well. And that's it. And then now, at the end of her life, she's able to just sit in her chair in Scottsdale,
And talk
probably
to
knitting,
people. Yeah.
and like send out her stories and her wisdom and her thoughts to just people all over the world,
Yeah.
the click of a button. It's amazing.
Well, and I think, she so often talked about you and
Oh,
the conversations that she had with you. And one I remember particularly because she said that you talked about love for so long and trying to
mhm.
define,
Yes.
like, what does that even mean?
Yes.
And she loved those conversations with you and just defining and refining and teasing apart, well, what does that really mean? Well, how, I mean, she loved it.
Yeah. It's a huge question. What actually is, how do you get love onto a page? Is it just a feeling? Is it an action? Is it again, I would dare say it's an orientation. It's,
Mm.
for Gladys, it was all about where are you putting your attention? This whole idea of which wolf do you feed? I mean, she never used those words, but at least not to me. But like where do you put your energy? And
Hmm.
love was this frequency or area or level on which we could put our attention and our energy that had an incredible ability to help us grow and heal and shape the world that we want to live in. And
Hmm.
the other thing, whatever the other end of that spectrum is, whatever the opposite of that, it's not even worth talking about because
Mm.
often as a writer, when I'm trying to get to the heart of a question like that, I'm like, well, what isn't it? And these aren't questions, or what's the opposite of it? And these aren't things that Dr. Gladys works with.
Right.
She doesn't do it that way. So we don't even
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah. I think love really fueled everything she did.
For reals. It's really true. And I hope that, I hope her message is continuing to get out there. I hope people are interpreting it in their own ways. I always wanted to give her voice some structure to kind of cling to so that people could receive it more deeply without changing it. I mean, that's true of all of my everyone I work with, but really with her, especially because she had this history of being not enough, particularly like linguistically,
Hmm. Hmm.
verbally, and writing, that what she had to say just wasn't quite enough. And then I think that, yeah, so I really wanted to help that, also that our work together would provide another level of healing through love and through support for what she had to say. So I hope that it can touch people more and more deeply as it touched me. I hope it can move through them like it moves through me.
I think that it does. I mean, the when you hear people talk about it or they write in how it's changed their life and, all of that, I think it really does. And wow, I just feel like what an angel you are that came into her life at the right time
Oh,
to really be the midwife for her,
yeah.
for this book, to be able to capture her essence and really the way you speak about her, it's like you really got her. You understood who she was and what she struggled with and what she was really all about. And like, what a gift. Like, what an amazing
Mm,
gift you gave this woman. I feel like we were, and I talked about this, that, being with her in the last 3.5 years of her life was like watching a comet come
mm,
through the sky. And as it was getting
mm.
closer to Earth and it was hitting oxygen, it was just lighting up even more, just lighting up until it went out. And
Yeah.
like we got to witness that trajectory as it was coming through. And that was the whole time that she was writing the book. And, the only time she and I took a break from Instagram lives was when she was first. I don't know if the book must have already come out, and she started the podcast tour,
The
and
podcast,
she was
like,
like, I
yeah,
mean,
it was a
they had
gauntlet.
her on a schedule that would like knock anybody back. And they
Hmm.
finally had to cut her down to once a day
Yeah.
interviews. And so maybe there were 2 months in there that we didn't, because she was just too exhausted. Um,
Yeah.
but then it was, she's like, I don't want to miss. I want to get back to it. So, um, but I feel like you really gave her such a beautiful, yeah, such a beautiful gift to be able to take her words and really create the legacy that was her final message, you know?
Well, thank you. And I would say two things there. One, so did you. And two, it's karma. And she and I met there. She and I
Hmm.
met there, that we both have a deep understanding of karma and multiple lifetimes. And we both, I mean, that's just our reality. I'm
Right.
not going to tell you it's objective truth. People can believe whatever they want to believe, but this is my world.
Yeah.
And this is the way it works for me. And it's also the way it worked for her. And that our job is just simply listen and go where we're meant to go to connect with the people we're meant to connect with and help them do their work because that is our work. And then we all do the right work and we get where we're going and we kind of nudge each other forward
Hmm.
along the path in that way. And that's a huge piece of what I see myself doing because all the books I work on are part of someone's like soul message that they have to tell. They have to
Mm.
tell this story. They have to explain this thing and they know it. And I kind of, and when I'm working with them at the beginning or deciding if I'm going to take the project, I'm really trying to tap into that with my guidance and my intuition. Is this really their work? And how can I help them bring it into the world? Because if it is, I'm in my right place.
Hmm.
I'm using what I'm good at to help them do what they're good at and what they came here to do. And yeah, and with Dr. Gladys, it was like that. Like, let's just let's just help this woman say what she's been needing to say. And so, and in a way that the world can hear it, that
Yes.
really accept it. And I think the world was also finally ready. A lot of
Right.
what she had to say was so ahead of its time, that finally, at this point in time, the world was ready. And the fact that she was 100 years old, people perked up. They were like,
Yeah.
what's going on? What does she
Wait,
have to
what? How
say?
is this a thing? Right.
Yeah. And then this unusual life history, too. I think
Right.
that also brought in a lot.
Well, and just, how she, when you see her, like just who she is. I mean, when my first podcast, well, so the last podcast, it wasn't really a podcast, but it was the last interview she did with me, was with Carolyn Mace.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And because they were friends and had shared stages back in the day. And so I asked Carolyn after her passing, I asked her if she would come on and be my first podcast interview. And she said, of
Hmm.
course. And so she and I had a lovely conversation. And although I was very nervous because it was the first one I had done. And And it was so funny. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But she talked about Gladys. She said Gladys was a queen. She would walk into a room and she just, her hair was always that way. And
Mm-hmm.
she always just had this way of walking into a room. Like she just had presence
Yeah.
with her, And
Yeah.
so, that's the other thing about, saying like it sparked everybody's interest because here's this 101-year-old woman writing a book and she has this really interesting backstory. And then you look at her and she's like, wow, and she's beautiful,
Yeah.
wrinkles and all. She was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and she's old in this other way too.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, she's
yeah.
her she's been through a lot of lifetimes. And she's I don't know. I don't know how that all works. I don't know that part. Like, are we like nearing the end of this process? What does this look like? What are we gonna do? We're just gonna turn to light? I have no idea what happens if there is an end. I would love to speak with her about those things.
I
There's
know.
so many personal questions I'd love to ask her, or spiritual questions that that we didn't get to. But yeah, she's passed some pretty pivotal milestones that I think many of us haven't. And so we're very curious about it.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it like to just get it like that? Like to be able to orient yourself toward the positive like that? Come on, we all want that. Like we
I
want it
know.
so bad, and then we don't do it. We just go out in the world and we don't do it. But, it's interesting that she's a special lady. I want to
Yeah.
talk about her in the present tense because I almost feel her with us now that we're talking about her.
Well, it's interesting because the last interview that I did, there was this white light that
Uh-huh.
appeared in the video while I was talking to the woman, Michelle. I said, Michelle, there's like this white thing next to you all of a sudden. It was
Yeah.
pretty amazing. We both got teary-eyed and we were like, okay, thanks, Gladys, for being here. And
Yeah.
I would not discount the fact that she would show up for every single interview that I do because she loved the people and, yeah,
Yeah. No, I have a sense that she's still in the in-between place as well. I don't, sometimes I get the sense when someone's come back because their kind of energy shifts and the way I think about them shifts. I don't know if I'm right. Again, these are just frames through which I see the world. But yeah, and what I keep hearing in my ear as you're talking, like when we're talking about like, is Gladys here with us right now? She's like, what I keep hearing is, you better believe it. You better believe it. Isn't that fun?
uh, well, she was sassy, you know?
She was so sassy.
Yeah,
Thank God. Like the world needs more sassy women.
right, right. Well, so do you like how many projects do you take on a year or does it just depend? Like you're having a baby soon, so are you
Yeah,
going,
totally depends. I'm working on just one project right now and or mostly one. I'm finishing one and starting another, which I've done a little bit on, and then I'll pause for maternity leave and then work on it again in the spring and summer. But it's been a lot slower because my son is now a year and a half, and then I'm due to give birth in 6 weeks. So it's busy.
yeah,
And I'm always someone who wanted to be able to prioritize. I have a flexible job in
right.
part because I'm a rebel and I can't be told what to do, but in part because I always wanted to be able to make space for raising kids and have that be really available to me without having to change my lifestyle drastically. So in these years, I'm just working slowly, picking at things one by one. And it's great. I mean, it gives me so much juice, and motherhood gives me so much juice, like both of them. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
And that was such a great concept in her book about finding your juice.
She talked about it all the time. And one thing that I want to be really clear about, because sometimes when I looked at late drafts of that book, I'm like, did we make this clear? The juice, again, it's an orientation. It's a what you pay attention to. There are some people for whom their profession or their very serious hobby will become a huge part of what gives them juice.
Hmm.
But there are plenty of people for whom that may not happen. And that's not what we're talking about only. That's part of it. Very cool if it happens. I get juice from my job,
Right,
um, and from parenthood. So did Gladys. Super awesome. But the juice is, you can get the juice from walking to the corner store. You
right,
can get your juice from, really making your cup of coffee exactly the way you like it. You can prune a plant and get juice. You can just sit with a friend and laugh deeply and get juice. And I've wondered if we got that into the book in a way that made it through to people because it's not external. It's
right,
internal.
right, right, right. It's how it makes you feel. It's what brings you alive. It's what opens your heart. And
Right.
feel to me, that's how I've interpreted it. It's that time when, I just feel so expansive within from inside. Like, oh,
Right.
this is just like, I feel so alive right now by
Right.
having this conversation with you, by staring out at the ocean, by working with my chiropractic patients and really explaining to them so they understand the concepts of how the body works and how it's all connected, and even the quantum physics of it all, like how you and I, we are no different. We literally are all one, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what brings me juice. And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do necessarily, like you're saying, of, yeah, it's great that I get juiced by doing chiropractic, but that isn't always it.
Right. I mean, the more one pays attention to what gives them juice, the more one's able to align their external life to match up with that. That is
Hmm.
true. That happens over time. That's like natural. Once once you, and here I mean one, like the general you, pay attention, learn to pay attention to juice or in the space of paying attention to juice, you're going to naturally go for the things that bring you more of it.
Hmm.
But it's the alignment is secondary. And the other thing about juice is that much like I do think we got this into the life needs to move, all life needs to move secret. It is
Hmm.
always happening. It is
Yeah.
never not happening. There is juice happening. And I speak as someone who's been in some dark places, even to those who are in dark places, it is like the tiniest bit of light, but it is happening. There
Right,
is something there, some little spark. Like I said, the coffee, pruning a tomato plant. I don't care what the thing is, noticing a
right.
bird out your window. The more I really think Gladys would say, the more you can pour your attention, your energy, your memory, your focus into these moments,
Hmm.
the more juice you're gonna get. I can't speak for her, though I have on the page in some ways, but I really feel that she's aligned with that message.
Yeah,
It's
and it's
yeah.
similar. I don't think it was spoken about in the same way, but that idea of the trickle around the dam,
Mm-hmm.
and even in those dark places, like you were saying, there's always a trickle. So,
Something.
just put a little more water in that trickle and it's going to get bigger and it's going to seek the way around as water will do, and it will find its way.
Yep. Just watch it. Just
Yeah.
put your focus there because that's how it grows. And there's really this aspect of maybe not co-creating the universe, but co-creating our universe and our experience of our
Absolutely.
universe
Absolutely.
that comes with that orientational shift, that sort of that flipping head down toward life.
So we could talk for a long time. You are
Yeah.
just such a wisdom keeper for such a young woman. It's just
Uh,
so, so lovely. And so I am curious about your name,
oh, my
Chandika.
Yeah. So I spent many years studying yoga. My legal name is Catherine, and there are many people who still call me that name. I've also gone by Kate for many years, and I have friends who think of me that way and call me that way. Um, I'm not particular about it.
Mhm.
I'm also, yeah, I'm a Katie like you. More of a Kate than a Katie, but and but I spent many years studying yoga and like the eight-limbed path of yoga, not just the asanas, not just the
Right.
physical postures. And it took me to India, it took me to many ashrams, lived in ashrams throughout my late 20s. That's actually how I ended up working with books, weirdly enough. I was
Oh,
translating for a spiritual teacher.
oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, from Brazilian Portuguese into English, and then I was like editing what he had to say because there's an art to really interpreting, more
Hmm.
than just translating directly. So again, so that focusing on how it lands for people. So then I started editing books and this and that. Anyway, so it was in those years that I picked up that name, and it is Chandi is deeply related to Kali. Many would say she's one of the aspects of Kali. Many would say Kali is one of the aspects of Durga. It really depends. Hinduism is a very fluid religion with many different interpretations in many different parts of India. But yeah, Chandi is the fierce love aspect of the Divine Mother.
Mm.
So I've kept it in my professional practice, even as my life has kind of continued on from that phase. I'm no longer living in ashrams. I'm very much living a more expected life, I guess, for someone from my background. Um, I've kept it in part because it's a huge part of what I'm doing as a writer and an editor. I'm kind of slashing and burning ideas and
Love
but with
that.
a lot of
Okay.
love, so the right
Yeah.
ones can shine through. And it feels really right. I've sat with whether I would go back to Catherine or Kate or something like that, but it Chandika still feels really right to me. So I stick with it.
Wow, I love that. And I do like, you're right, the fierceness, the fierce love of like, I love this concept so much. We have to slash and burn
Yeah.
all of the detritus that is going to keep the message from being pure.
Yeah. It's protection actually of what you're supporting. It's the energy of like the mother bear when you mess with her cub.
Right, right.
She's gonna mess you up, but it's because she's trying to protect this thing that is precious.
Ah,
And and it's an aspect actually of the feminine that in my ancestry, I don't know how far back my ancestry was like Catholic and this and that. My parents were not Catholic, but they were raised that way and going back and I don't know at what point my ancestors lost or had taken from them this idea of the divine feminine, but it was kind of stripped from that religious background. And so there
mhm.
is an aspect of with great reverence saying we don't have our own words for this, and
Yeah.
there's no desire to like take it from Hinduism. I actually don't think Hinduism is that worried about things being taken because again it's very fluid in this other way. It's hard for us to understand, but I want to step into it. Do you know Mirabai Starr's work? at all. She wrote
I feel
Fierce
like I
Grace.
do somehow.
She's amazing. Anyway, she talks a lot about interspirituality and that the feminine, like that for women to choose an interspiritual path in this world. Again, I don't want to put words into her mouth. My interpretation of what she's saying is that for women to choose an interspiritual path in this world is we have to make it our own because most of religion has stripped the feminine
Right,
out. So we have to go in and find it wherever we can and promote
right.
it and make it our own again and like recreate it. Um, so here we are, recreating.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you are just such a gift. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall during the conversations that you and Dr. Gladys had.
Ah,
I mean, we were
thank you.
we were at the same time having conversations with her, parallel times, but what a treasure and what a gift you gave to the world by being able to just hear her and
Mhm.
and really pluck out that meaning underneath her words to be able to bring it forward in a way that people could really hear and take in and change their own life.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Thank
love
you.
the way you put that, and I hope I just hope I did enough for her.
I
Uh,
You did.
and I'm so appreciative of your work to get her words out, to get her voice out into the world, both when she was alive and now. It's incredible, and I think that she's applauding you. She's excited.
Oh, well, to our mutual love of Gladys McGarey, it has just been such a joy to meet you and just what a lovely person you are. I'm just so grateful to know you now. So,
Well, thank you, Katie. It's really, really great to speak with you and
yeah,
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the work you
absolutely.
do.
And happy baby.
Thanks. Yay.
Happy end of your pregnancy and your next last 6 weeks. And I've been having these dreams, and I'm like, where is Gladys when I'm having these dreams? I did have a dream and I often have dreams that I'm still have a baby and I'm nursing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had one last week, and it's so visceral and so like I literally am nursing a newborn.
Well, maybe that's what this podcast is.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah, because it was just yeah. Anyway, so
Gladys always said your dreams are important,
I
so
know. That's why I write them all down and I try and I pay attention.
good. Good for
Um,
you. Good.
so we will be talking about this on the Instagram live, because Bob, her son Bob, was the one that really was like, "Hey, you should reach out to Chandika and see if, she would be willing to do this." So thank you to Bob McGarry for
Thank you,
that.
Bob.
And anyway, just best of luck to you. I hope the rest of your pregnancy is just easy and beautiful, and your birth is sweet and calm and powerful.
Thank you. And I hope it happens at home. My last birth was at home, and I hope this one happens at home too. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, good. Good, good, good. All right. Well, we will be in touch. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again. Take care, Katie.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Let's see.